All right, everyone. If there's one thing that rankles me, and I did touch upon this the other day, but this really warrants its own video. If there's one thing that rankles me, it's attempts to dumb down the youth of the United States, because they've been dumbed down enough. We were number one in the world back a half a century ago with regards to education. Um, United States students were world renowned because they were given a hearty battery of courses, and it was tailored to them based on their aptitude. So you've got to understand that somebody might be very, very good at math and science and things like that, but they're just not really good at reading. Hence, every doctor and their scribblings on your prescription. Or they might be really, really good, highly literate, and they speak five friggin' languages, but they just don't get the math thing. And so tailored education really makes a lot more sense. Normally, some families are able to send, therefore, their kids to a charter school, a private school, something like that. And you get more personalized education, generally speaking. Some of them are better than others, but you're capable of making sure that your student's natural aptitude is promulgated. Normally, in the public education system, you have something that's basically a doppelganger of the basic idea. You have AP courses, for example, for high school students. They're performing above level in some course or another, and so they take AP tests and stuff. They can get college credit for this. They can jumpstart their ability to go to a college because they're smart in one or more areas. You have gifted programs for younger students in which you realize this student is inevitably going to be bored with the coursework, actually, probably act out. I had this problem when I was in elementary school, by the way. We'll get into that. And so you need to give them a course that's more rugged. You need to give them, they can't read Hop on Pop because Hop on Pop is something that they already were reading 4 or 5 years ago. They should be reading, The Time Machine or something like that. They should be reading adult literature because they have higher aptitude. Mamdani in New York City is pledging that if he is elected to the mayorship of New York City, he's going to do everything that he can to eliminate gifted programs and AP courses and things like this. We have seen this before, by the way. I believe it was the state of Washington, not Washington, D.C., but Washington State. I believe it was Washington, although it may have been Oregon, actually going after the AP curriculum. And I think California is trying to do the same thing, actually, at this moment to try to even the playing field. And this is a perfect example of what equity means when the left discusses the issue. Mamdani, who is a communist, and people like him. It is not about uplifting those at the bottom to bring them up. It is about pushing those that are already at the top down in order to equalize things. Equality of outcome, not equality of possibility. That's basically what they're aiming for. Mamdani is insane. The idea that the nation needs to dumb down its student population even more when we're already beginning to lag further and further behind with regards to basic training, math, reading. The ability to read is slightly important, I would note. The ability to be able to write, or at least to type, most people do it digitally nowadays, and handwriting standards have gone downhill. The ability to do the things that you need to do. Like we should be teaching home ec and senior law as mandatory, actually, in my opinion. And we should replace gym with the kind of physical training that they had back in the 50s. Well, that'd beef up the population a little bit more. We've dumbed down our standards over and over and over again so that the lowest common denominator is basically the new norm. People that would have been considered to be fairly slow 50 years ago now are considered the norm. This is irrational and wrong. It makes absolutely no sense. Mamdani wants to continue this particular process. It's an attempt to dumb people down because when people are dumber, they're more receptive to leftoidism. They will tend not to get ahead as easily, so they'll be more reliant on government goods and services. They are going to be less critically thinking, and therefore they will uncritically think about, hey, how great it would be if this new free meal program came through, and things like that. It's effectively nothing more than communism. It's quite literally that. I mean, a lot of people will look at the situation And they'll write entire books on the subject, by the way, and make like hour-long videos trying to explain the convolutions of why the educational system is failing. It's failing because communists have taken it over. Nothing more. It's very, very simplistic, actually. It's very rudimentary. Communists have come in. They do not want what's best for the nation, certainly don't want what's best for those students, and they want to dumb them down. AP courses, for example, I'll take myself as an anecdote, as I sometimes do on my videos. I was a gifted child. I was bored in class. I'm like, oh, you want me to read this book? Well, I did it in 10 minutes. What am I supposed to do with the next 35 minutes? I don't know what the fuck I'm supposed to do. So I just started doodling and handing out random cards to people with lunatics on them with descriptions of all of the crazy shit that they did. I found it funny. I had to amuse myself somehow. There was nothing else for me to do. What are you're going to expect somebody in fourth grade to sit there quietly for 35 minutes while other people finish their work. And they're not allowed to do anything else. You're not allowed to doodle. You're not allowed to twiddle. You're not allowed to stand up and stretch yourself because you've already done the goddamn work. It made absolutely no sense. AP courses being hazarded. I took 3 of them myself. I took AP English, I took AP US History, and I took AP Biology. By the way, getting credit for college for all 3 of them because I did well on the tests. AP courses, if anything, should be expanded. Gifted programs should be expanded. Kids are getting bored. They're getting bombarded with watered down bullshit on a regular basis. These kids are smarter than that. Not everyone is going to be a savant in math. Okay, then you take basic math. But maybe that person is a total wordsmith and speaks 3 languages. Well, then give them more beefy linguistic work. That's what you should be doing. You should be trying to promulgate, especially around the high school and middle school years. Just take note of what the student is good at and what they're not good at, and tailor their education a little bit for them so that they can succeed more. Now, not everyone is going to get a master's degree. I don't have one. Not everyone is going to be into skilled work, blue collar jobs and stuff like that. Not everyone can be a fucking plumber. I don't think you want me working on your toilet. Oh yeah. See, it's gushing water. That means it's unclogged. That would probably be me as a plumber. I wouldn't last very long. Not everyone can do every kind of job. People have certain aptitudes and they have certain interests. They should be promulgated. Another part of it, though, goes to the parents. The parents need to make rational decisions with regards to their children as well. Your child is really, really great. They love playing guitar. They play it till their fingers bleed and all the other cliches and stuff. Well, that's a skill. Even if they're playing in a goddamn Subway, at the very least, at the end of the day, they've made enough to get a Subway sandwich. It's a workable skill. It's something that they can go with. I believe that parents need to take a more active role too. But for the government to take an active role in trying to dumb down the educational standards and get rid of the idea that little Jimmy, because little Jimmy's just really great at algebra and stuff, should be in a more advanced math class simply because of, in many cases, the color of his skin. That was literally the rationale used, if I remember correctly, by Washington State and or Oregon. I can't remember which one or both. The West Coast is weird. To try to eliminate that, well, the government's not just being derelict, it's being outright malevolent at that point. It's not just, hey, we're stupid. It's, hey, we're stupid. We're also goddamn evil. I think that kids should be given the courses that are appropriate for their age level and their aptitude and their interest to an extent within certain things they want to do. One kid is really great at art. Just slams up that potter's wheel and can make you 10 urns in an hour. Another kid can't get it right. That would be me. And the clay is all over the place and, they end up shamefaced and don't know what they're doing. Another kid is really good at math, can solve, long division in their head and everything else, and is great. But they don't quite get it on reading. Well, then they're in the basic reading course. You're trying to make sure that they do read, but they're really, really great at math. You give them an advanced course. It makes sense. They go on to AP Calculus or something like that and end up in college with like 12 credits. This is the way that we should be structuring the educational system. It's such a no-brainer, too. Only adults, by the way, could possibly screw such an elementary thing up. Yeah, to pun kind of intended. Kids would know how to run this system. Well, Jimmy's great at math. He doesn't like reading. Sally's great at reading. She doesn't like math. It's a no-brainer. It's quite simplistic. It's really not that difficult to understand. But people like Mondami, they don't want anyone to succeed. Everyone should be brought down to that lowest common denominator as often as possible so that they end up retarded. They want them retarded because that makes more socialists. That's literally the only thing that Mamdani wants. That's about all. Peace out.